Welcome back. I'm Tom Hewitt, and this is News 13's Eye on the Election. I'm here with Representative Sharon Cissna, state representative who is running against incumbent Representative Don Young for U.S. House. And Sharon, you're well known among people who follow the Alaska legislature, but here in the interior, not everybody might know you. So what's your background, and what made you decide to make the jump from state politics to national politics?
Well, it's been a long road, and I started that road on a 2-week vacation to Alaska and was on the way back on the ferry from Haines to Juneau and suddenly realized that I was already home and that going back to Seattle just wasn't what I needed to do. So flew back to Anchorage, and actually we had first of all landed in Fairbanks, and it was right at the point in 1967 when the rain had just started falling. And when I turned around and flew back to Anchorage, Fairbanks was flooding. It was a bad flood. And so I immediately went out to the Air National Guard and volunteered for my first few days, and in making positive that there was help to Fairbanks. And so I have always had a very close feeling with Fairbanks as my first place here. And I also spent a year here working for Fairbanks Mental Health.
You're running against Congressman Don Young. He's a 19-term incumbent, and he makes the case that his seniority makes him a more effective legislator in Washington. How do you feel that you could be as effective or more so than Representative Young?
I think that Representative Young has done a lot of positive things, and he's a person that I know is very dedicated to certain parts of that job. But what we've been reading day after day and recent years is that the problem that we have in both houses in Congress is that there's just a gridlock, that people are being so political and so tied to the political world that they're not paying attention to the constitutional world. And the fact that what we are paying for, it's multi-billion dollars a year to run that security procedure, which actually even the TSA themselves, you look at their rankings on how they're doing catching problems, they do very poorly for so much money, and there are many health implications in those procedures. There's no oversight by Congress, and interestingly, our congressperson in the House was the one that got the money for TSA. And he now says he agrees with me that it's not being done properly, but he says there's nothing he can do about it. And what I know is that when in fact you're the body in government that's responsible for spending money, you're also the body that's really absolutely must be doing oversight, and doing oversight to the point that we see when we're spending money poorly, and we turn that around. Do we have a budget problem? We have a huge budget problem. Is it because people are not doing their job? Yes. And unfortunately, that job is starting at the top. Our Congress. No, this can't happen. I'm running because I must.
A major issue here in the interior is the potential departure of the F-16 Aggressor Squadron from Eielson Air Force Base, and there's a one-year moratorium on that now, but the clock is ticking, and that year's going to be up. Well, if you were elected, you are in Washington. Do you think that the move can be stopped, and if so, should we try and stop it? And what could you do?
Well, this is one of the things that I think is one of the huge problems we have, and one of the problems that I think comes from because when you don't live somewhere, a lot of times you don't see a lot of what's happening. And one of the things that's happening in Alaska right now is there's the whole environmental changes that are going on. There's a world where the populations are exploding, and we have more and more tension building throughout the world. And we live in this state that, yes, it looks like we're a wilderness. It looks like we are a frontier, but it's kind of the forgotten frontier. Yet we're the place where right now ships, and I several months ago was able to be up on the North Slope and actually see some of those ships going across. And we have a whole new change occurring in the world that is going to have Alaska at the forefront. Yet we lead the nation in domestic violence and sexual assault, and interestingly enough, because in the TSA procedure, it actually does, it actually re-traumatizes people. So that is the other cost we haven't factored in. But what we've got is the world's supply of energy, renewable and non-renewable. We have the world's supply. There are places that are in very similar conditions as we are, and I'm thinking Norway, that have done marvelous things and are making huge fortunes. And they actually got their permanent fund idea from us, and now their permanent fund is worth many, many, many times more than ours is. Why? And part of that is because we don't have the integration of all of the people who are really most concerned about Alaska. That's our Congress people, that's the people in state government, that's the people that are running local governments, and the people at the grassroots. We have to all be working together. The only way you can do that is to actually be able to work with people.
All right, well, I think that's about all the time we have, but thank you, Sharon, for coming in. And for the rest of you, don't go away just yet. We've got Jamie Schwartzwald coming up next with sports.